Hey, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing my March wrap-up. The first book I read in March was Dune Messiah. I gave this 3 stars. It was a quick read and not as good, obviously, as Dune was. I wasn't sure if I was going to pick these up. I think I will probably end up continuing this series. It was published as a series of different like the chapters were published within a, I think, magazine or a newspaper, but it wasn't published as one book when it was originally published, and then they put it together into a book. It was not as good. I rated it 3 stars, but I will probably continue with the series after this. The next book I read was Obsidio by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. Again, I rated this 3 stars. If you saw me in my February wrap-up, I talked about the second book in this series, basically space adventure, right? And this is the very ending of it all. I didn't love this series, but it was okay. So I did rate this one 3 stars. The next book I read I did really love, and it was Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. I gave this 5 stars. This is a dual timeline, so it goes back to when she was a kid and growing up with her childhood best friend, and them now and why they're not friends, and kind of repairing that relationship. And I cried at this book. I really enjoyed it. If you like romance, you have to pick this one up. They both read and are really into words, so I did really enjoy this one, and I definitely recommend it. The next book I picked up, I had been very excited to read this, and it is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I rated this one 4 stars. I don't know why, but it kind of gave me a nostalgic feeling in the beginning when she is taking her test to try and get out of her poverty and into this school. This is literally about wars. Please check the trigger warnings if you're going to read this book, or the content warnings. It is very graphic. There's a lot of difficult scenarios in these books, but they are so good. And our main character, I love her, but I also really like the way that this series shows kind of how power corrupts over time and that kind of thing. But I did really enjoy this book. I rated this one 4 stars. So many people told me, don't read The Poppy War back to back. It's really hard to binge read it, and the original plan was to read a book in between each of them. But after I finished the first Poppy War, I immediately picked up The Dragon Republic, which is the second book. Again, I really liked this. I gave it 4 stars. If you've read it, you know the ending is a rough one, and it really hurt me. So after this book, I was like, okay, probably need to take a break. But I did really enjoy it. Again, it's part of the Poppy War trilogy. So I did decide to take a break, and the next book I picked up probably wasn't a good idea, but I picked up You've Reached Sam by Dustin Theo? I don't know. This is about a girl whose boyfriend died, and she is able to call him and talk to him, and it's her dealing with her grief and acceptance of his death and all that kind of stuff. I cried. It hurt. It is YA, and I rated this one 4 stars. I did really like it, but it wasn't my favorite. The main character was a little bit like, she did things I was like, okay, that's annoying, and you're being a terrible person. But overall, I did really enjoy this book, and I cried. And for the next 3 books, this just set the mood for the next 2 books I was going to read, because it was just pain. So once I finished that, I decided it was time to get back to the Poppy War, and I finished it. I read The Burning God, 5 stars. I absolutely loved this book. The ending tore me apart. I cried. And also this includes like a little extra bonus thing called, let's see what it's called, because I forget. Oh, The Drowning Faith. And this is in another character's perspective, and let me say that made me cry even more. But I really loved this series. I think it may be my new favorite fantasy series, or like one of my new favorite fantasy series. It's up there for me. It'll probably be one of my favorite books this year. I am obsessed. Please go read the Poppy War trilogy. It's a lot, and it's a lot of war, but it was so good. After crying at You've Reached Sam, and then crying at The Burning God, I made a really dumb decision to read A Thousand Boy Kisses by Tilly Cole. And everyone said that this book ruined them. I do cry at books, but a lot of times books that I'm supposed to cry at, I don't. So I wasn't really sure. I will say I didn't love the writing, but I did give it 5 stars. There are parts of this that made me uncomfy, like just like the relationship starting at like 5 years old basically, and 8. That was kind of weird to me, but it was really good. I cried at like the halfway point, and that's when I knew I had gotten myself into trouble, because at the end of this book I literally was sobbing, like could not breathe sobbing. I'll put a little clip in here of my reaction to the end.
I still haven't even finished it because I literally can't breathe. This book is so bad.
But yeah, I like couldn't breathe sobbing, couldn't read the pages. I will say the only thing I did not like about this book for real was the epilogue. I thought it was not needed. They should have just left that out. I did not enjoy that part, but the rest of it was pretty good, and I did give it 5 stars because it really made me feel emotion. Then I picked up Daughter of Smoke and Bone. This is a YA fantasy by Lonnie Taylor. I did really like the concept of this. It just wasn't my favorite. I gave it 3 stars. I read it fairly fast, and it was good, but it just wasn't like my favorite thing. I think I'm learning that I like adult fantasy a little bit better than YA fantasy, but it is still a very good read, and I do recommend you pick it up. Immediately after finishing that, I picked up the second book, Days of Blood and Starlight. I also gave this 3 stars. The romance part was not really in this one. This is a lot about like kind of the war that's going on and how it's changed. So I didn't love that the main characters weren't together in this part, but it was still good. Actually, before I read both of the Daughter of Smoke and Bone books, I read The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. I gave this 3 stars. It's just your typical mystery where a bunch of rich people go out into a lodge in on an island, and murder happens, and they have to figure out which one it is. It's got multiple POVs. I did really enjoy this, but it just like wasn't my fave. That's why I gave it 3 stars. Then I read A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. I gave it 5 stars. I read this in a day. I sat down and finished it. I loved this book. It was so good. I immediately ordered the next one, and I'm waiting for Game of Fate to come in because I saw on her TikTok that you're supposed to read Hades' POV next. So I'm going to do that, but I did really like this. This is a Hades and Persephone retelling, kind of in like a more modern day. The last book I read in March was the one I liked the least, and it was Supermarket by Bobby Hall. If you know who Bobby Hall is, you're smarter than me. I picked this up and didn't look at the author because it's not on the front or the side, and I got home and I realized this man looks familiar. It's because it's Logic. Logic wrote this book. The writing, not very good. I gave it 2 stars, and it's very much so Fight Club, but I feel like we should have just let Fight Club be Fight Club and not this. There's also like references to like modern culture that were kind of like, it just was like weird that I didn't love. But yeah, I didn't really enjoy this one as much as any of the other books I've read. This is actually the first time I've given a book 2 stars. I like feel bad giving books stars under 3. So I didn't really love this one. It was a very quick read though. The guy's kind of just like going crazy, and he works in a supermarket. So that is the 13 books that I read in March. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.